In Inverness, and the growing number of asylum seekers coming to Glasgow has seen immigration become a much more immediate issue for Scottish voters. To discuss that and what impact it's having on the political parties ahead of next May's Holyrood election, I'm joined now from Edinburgh by the pollster Mark Diffley. Mark, thank you very much for being with us.
Good morning, Laura.
So just how high up the agenda is immigration for people in Scotland now?
Well, it's true to say that it's a lot further up the agenda than it was even a year ago. So when we ask voters what are the top 3 issues of concern to you at the moment, about 20%, about 1 in 5 mention immigration as a top 3 issue of concern. Now, even a year ago, that was about 4 or 5%. So you can see over that period of time how the issue has really accelerated in voters' minds. It is fair to say that I think there are a couple of caveats to this. One is that the issues of the NHS and the economy, the cost of living, are still far more important to voters than immigration. So on the same question, about 50% say mention the health service, and about 40% mention the cost of living as being key areas of concern for them. It's also important to say that the issue in Scotland is far less intense than it is south of the border. So equivalent polls south of the border put concern for immigration at around or over 50% in the top 3 issues of concern for
So there is
voters.
still Scotland is still distinct in that respect?
Yes, it is, absolutely.
What do you think is driving, though, that acceleration?
Well, I think there's been a really interesting study out this week from an organisation called Best for Britain, which asks the question about what are the areas of concern nationally and what are the areas of concern in your local community. And when you ask voters about the areas of concern in their local community, concern for immigration halves. So it goes down to about 25% from about 50%. This is UK-wide, not in Scotland. So that tells me, I think, that concern about the issue of immigration is not necessarily in all cases driven by personal experience. It's driven by things like political narrative. Not entirely, but I think we are clearly discussing the issue of immigration much more than ever before. I've been polling for 25 or more years, and I've never spoken about the issue of immigration more than I have in recent times. Now, of course, that does reflect the mood of voters, but it does also reflect kind of the political discourse at the moment, I think.
Well, how closely do you think that correlates with polls that suggest that Reform might do rather well in the Scottish election coming up?
Yes, I think it probably does. If you break down the issues of concern to voters, the issue of immigration is far higher amongst voters that want to vote for Reform or are considering voting for Reform than for the electorate as a whole. That's absolutely clear. Current polling in Scotland suggests that Reform will probably pick up somewhere between 50 and 20 MSPs at the election in May, from a total at the moment of 1, which was a defection from the Tories to Reform. So that's a seismic change, really, in terms of support for Reform, having polled 7% in the general election not just 15 months ago. They're now polling up at around 20% in Scotland. So you can see how support for Reform has increased considerably over that time. And if they do get 15 to 20 MSPs, there is a possibility that they may actually finish second to the SNP.
Listen, you don't like to hear it, I'm sure, but polls can be wrong. As we saw in Wales, Reform didn't do as well as perhaps expected in the recent Caerphilly by-election. Instead, a Labour heartland went to Plaid Cymru. What, if anything, can we take from that result?
I think we can take from it that in certain situations, voters can be quite cute, voters can vote tactically. It's very clear, I think, from the result in Wales a couple of weeks back that a lot of Labour voters either lent or just outright gave their votes to Plaid Cymru in order to keep the Reform candidate out. Tactical voting is alive and well. The national